We just talked about the big picture, and we talked about a new definition of success, and particularly as it relates to DevOps. Now what we're going to do is really move into our world. How do we go to market? How do we make a sale? And I think that we have a very interesting story to tell you as we get to know who are the buyers in this situation and how do we address them. So let's start with the buyers. Who are those people and what's important?
Well, one of the buyers is your traditional buyer, the VP of Ops. I'll come back to them in a second. But there's some new buyers. There's the VP of Application Development or the VP of Engineering or equivalently the VP of Product Development. These are all the people who are having the developers and building out the code. And they have the pressure from the business to drive revenue by getting the product into production faster. Now, DevOps as a discipline will sometimes live in its own function, or it will report to Ops, or it will report to either the VP of Engineering or the VP of Product Development. And you want to find those people who are responsible again for this notion of, I want to get data into production faster. The last group that is part of this conversation, which wasn't part of the storage infrastructure conversation, is the head of quality. Because the head of quality is still responsible in a sense, they're the counterpart on the operations side to make sure that the bits that are put into production, the software that's put into production, is not going to break the existing systems. And the NetApp infrastructure for both development and for the quality assurance is phenomenal. It's a great value proposition to help them accomplish their mission.
Okay, that makes total sense in terms of everything we learned about Agile and those competing forces of speed, but also quality, needing to put them together. So now let's imagine that you've made headway and it's time to qualify. How would you qualify these customers?
Depending on who you're talking to, you want to ask them questions that are based in terms of speed and quality. How often do you release to production? How long does it take you to release to production? Are two questions that the head of application development or the head of engineering would be concerned with. Trying to achieve greater throughput to production, those are the questions that they would care about. A story that Paul related of the manager at eBags that could release 26 times per year, but IT is only letting them release 2 or maybe 3 times a year. These types of motivations come out from those questions. How often are you releasing to production? The head of quality that is concerned with the system being reliable and stable would be interested in being able to do full-scale system integration testing much more frequently. So how often are you doing full-scale system integration testing would be a great question to ask somebody who's responsible for the quality of the system. And how long does it take you to set up a full-scale integration test? That can take weeks or months at some organizations just to set it up. So those types of questions around the speed and the ability to reliably test things are very important to gauge where the organizations are under greater demand to be able to go faster and go better.
And Kathy, you'll notice that in John's questioning, he didn't say you're going to ask questions about dev test. And we know that historically NetApp has had a really powerful message around the words dev test. But if you go back to the notions of what Agilists are trying to do, is we're trying to say, look, and we're going to have short iterations that produce shippable quality product. We're not going to wait until the end, which is the dev test mentality. So what we want to gently suggest to the salespeople, and gently I mean by a 2x4, is that we don't want you to say dev test language, because in an agile shop that's moving towards this greater velocity of delivery, they're not thinking dev test, because testing is handled in chunks through the process. So we don't want to use the words of dev test. We want to use the words of infrastructure and how it enables the ability to go all the way into production, and the words of done.
I think that's really great that you've highlighted that difference, because dev test has been a sweet spot for us, and I think it's important for everyone listening to this to realize that this is a little bit of a
dev
shift
test is
here.
a little, it's a little, it would brand you a little bit in the old school.
It would, yeah. Today's Agile talks about continuous integration, test automation, and then DevOps brings dev all the way to production with continuous delivery. Those are the words that are used today.
Great. So critical to use those words that we've learned already throughout talking to these customers. So imagining things moving forward, and now it's time to start getting to know a little bit more about the customer and working towards a shared vision. What's the next step?
Well, what we want to empower the salespeople to do is to work with the customers in a way that would be comfortable for them. So we want to actually change the sales process to be more agile in and of itself, which means more collaborative. It's one of the values of the manifesto, and also about really working results. And so what we want you to do primarily is to drive to an impact discovery workshop, where even if the ops team is saying, oh, we're comfortable with how we're managing storage, when the VP of development says, I'm not comfortable with how fast I'm getting things through into production, that's an opportunity to suggest holding an impact discovery workshop where we can bring the groups together and discover the highest impact opportunities within that account, and then show how the NetApp value proposition delivers against those opportunities.
That's a really interesting approach and a different approach, and I think one that a lot of our sales force will want to practice, because I have been hearing from you salespeople that you're looking for a different way. How do I sell outside of IT? How do I sell to tier one? How do I change up my relationship with a customer? So there's some new things to this, but there's also some things that I think we've always been doing well that can be applied in a different way to this opportunity. So John, what are some basics in terms of what we know about our products, our solutions, and the value proposition, and how that fits with this market, so that salespeople can keep doing what they know how to do?
Yeah, absolutely. NetApp has got tremendously good technology that fits these needs. One of the stories that I heard, and we related at the Agile conference, was being able to transfer 8 terabytes of production data in 108 seconds in order to do testing before releasing to production. That's supported by Flex clones. Being able to scale up for integration, staging, production systems so that development can go through a very quick pipeline all the way to production with cluster data on tap, being able to have the full tier 1 level of support. All of these technologies are an exact fit for what development organizations are trying to do, trying to go faster, more safely and reliably, and make that progress and throughput to production very quickly based on solid technology, and NetApp fits exactly into that spot.
Great. So there is certainly a clear link between these customers' needs and our proven solution. So your ability to match that will serve you well. We also have a couple of other possibilities, the possibility of a workshop, which is a really exciting new way to get to a different level with your buyers. So thank you so much for sharing with us your knowledge about how to effectively sell into this a new organization in a different place for NetApp. I really appreciate it.